Somebody recently asked me and was curious what it would be like to be in my brain. And I said, well, it's a party and sometimes not a good party. And I basically want to explain today how I look at my brain and how it really helps looking at it as a school bus. And it's been a great analogy that's helped helped me and it helped a number of my clients and my friends. I've been going through some big challenges, and this has been in my relationship and work. And that's why I thought this is a good time to introduce the school bus and how it helps me. So let's look at it. So in my school bus analogy, I'm the driver of the school bus, me here and now, most of the time. In the back, I have a bunch of younger versions of me, and I have some other intentionally invited guests or some unintentionally invited people that are on this school bus. So my school bus is full of younger versions of me, and each of them have their own beliefs, they have their own fears, they have their strengths, they have their differences, and they tend to be kind of blocked at important ages or key times in my life or from trauma. So let me introduce you to a few of my on the school bus. So I think we all have a 2-year-old, and the 2-year-old in us, the part, wants what it wants, and it sometimes wants to throw a fit. And I can feel this. I could just feel this 2-year-old that just wants to like lay on the ground and kick and scream. Just that 2-year-old. So that's my 2-year-old on the school bus. I also have my 5-year-old version on the school bus, and that one tends to be creative, lighthearted, curious, loves to dance around, play in the mud, and is all about loving everyone. So that's kind of the 5-year-old version of me. And sometimes gets overtired and cranky and just needs to go to sleep. And then I have like the 10-year-old. And the 10-year-old version of me is very driven. And I was a gymnast at the time and was doing that like 4 times a week. And I didn't really fit in school. So there's definitely some awkwardness with that. So that's kind of the 10-year-old version of me. The 13-year-old version of me was angry, rebellious, and hurt. And so I definitely had some things going on in my life then. And then, made a big transition, and I talk about that on the podcast about Jesus, because that was when I had a different transition in my life. So the 14-year-old version of me was definitely more at peace, but awkward in her own skin and looked pretty young. I always looked like when I graduated from high school at 18, I looked probably 14, and I'm not kidding. So it's interesting. The 20-year-old version of me was very black and white, religiously kind of judgmental. And until I went to Africa on a mission trip, and then that shifted all of that. But the 20-year-old, I still have that part that just tends to be like black and white, even though nowadays I would not describe myself as that. And I can definitely feel when that 20-year-old part of me is like trying to tell me how I should drive the bus. Anyway, so that's the 20-year-old part of me. The 25-year-old, so I got married at 22 the first time. And the 25-year-old, and I knew I was in a destructive relationship pretty quickly. So right after the honeymoon, total shift, was in a destructive relationship, and it was just very sad for me. And I stayed in it for 22 years. So the 25-year-old me was very, she knew she was in a destructive relationship, and I chose to self-abandon myself, to stay in this relationship, to be lovable, to go according to my belief system that, marriage has to, I go into that the first 8 episodes. My whole belief system was really impactful in keeping me in a destructive relationship. And so the 25-year-old me is the self-abandoning that chose somebody else above their own self, and thought that was a good thing to do, and it wasn't. So the 28-year-old me, that was when I was in the psych ward the first time, and I talk about that. And again, it was a destructive relationship and huge cognitive dissonance, and stopped sleeping in the psych ward. And so the 28-year-old me went through a lot. And so that version and that part of me has lots to say sometimes. And then I have the, I'm not going to introduce you to all of them, but there's the 40-year-old part of me that just started making brave steps and started betting on myself. And then I had the 45-year-old me that had to learn to be, I was divorced, had to learn to be fiercely independent and yet felt needy at the same time, and just struggled with my own power and kind of had this fear and anger towards men that I needed to resolve at that time. Are you feeling stuck in with love, wealth, or peace? Well, you're not alone. Often it's a subconscious belief holding you back. That's why I combined life coaching and hypnotherapy together, so you can break through what's been keeping you stuck. Life coaching helps you shift your mindset, while hypnotherapy works deep within to reprogram limiting beliefs and memories. It's fast, it's effective, typically one session of each, and I have a few openings left. Are you ready for a change? Visit livebrighter.info and book your free consultation and see if this approach is right for you. See you then. So how does this help me? How does this help you? So when I am being triggered, and anytime I'm being triggered, there's a bigger reaction than the actual circumstance would probably call for. That's because a part of me, one of the people on the bus, has been triggered. And so it's just really important for me to hear them out. That's the biggest thing, is they have something to say to me. That doesn't mean I need to react, because again, I'm trying to keep in the driver's seat of the bus. But if I don't listen to them and I don't honor them, then that stirs up trouble. That is not helpful. So I just comfort them, I listen to them, I hear them out, hear what they have to say. I give them what they need, because sometimes they'll, just need to know that they're safe, or they need to know that I've got their back. Different things like that. The biggest thing they need to know is that I'm now, my own age now, and that I am going to drive the school bus and they're safe and they're protected and they're all going to be okay. That I'm not going to take them on a huge journey in the school bus that is just fraught with danger, as much as, I can control that. Sometimes you can't control that. So that's an important part. So the school bus analogy helps me love and respect all my past versions of me and helps me to listen to their feelings. And it kind of disassociates it enough where it's like, okay, this is just, me in the driver's seat, and I've got all the school bus, and I, just respect the different parts of me. And then, I can just connect with them, ask them what they need and why they're being triggered, and go a little deeper and kind of just be a friend to them. And that's really helpful. And sometimes the parts of me can shift and change, and I don't necessarily focus on that, because there's actually wisdom with each part, especially once it's been healed and redeemed. For example, the 25-year-old me that self-abandoned rather than self-abandoning and just feeling extra fearful about marriage and everything else, it just reminds me of the cost of self-abandoning. And I just remind it that, you're safe, and I'm going to not self-abandon. I'm going to listen to what you all have to say. So this is, I think it's helpful to understand this. For example, I mentioned that when I was 28 years old, I was in the psych ward from the destructive relationship. I was having health challenges. I had just had a baby, all of that. Again, for details, you can listen to the first 8 episodes, which was a long time ago. And how I would describe that on the school bus, and we'll get into this in more detail, is I had allowed other people onto the school bus. Some people that I had allowed on the school bus was, first of all, my husband at the time. My husband at the time had very strong opinions. He didn't believe there were other perspectives. He didn't have empathy, and I'm sure you can all kind of know what that means. And basically, I was allowing his opinion to matter more than my own. I was allowing him to okay, yeah, be in the driver's seat, and was abandoning myself and letting him drive the bus. Some other people that were on the bus during that time, I would say, was a version of God, and obviously wasn't God, that was very, I would say, condemning, in the sense of or more rigid, you have to love and respect your husband and you can win him without a word. So it was very much using scripture to keep me in line. And that is definitely not how God works. God does not use control and power. He wants intimate relationship, and universe wants that kind of relationship. But at the time, that's who I had right on the school bus, right in front, just telling me how I should behave and how I should be. I also So I had definitely those people on the school bus kind of driving it. And I would say at 28 years old, when I basically stopped sleeping because I was so stressed, and I actually, struggled with sleeping for a whole year and then just had more and more mental challenges. And then, yeah, it was not a good time. A diagnosis that was not helpful at the time and actually wasn't true. But that whole thing is we won't go down that rabbit hole. The point is, how I would describe that is cognitive dissonance. So I was not listening to the parts of me on the school bus, and there was basically half the part of the school bus that was just yelling at the other half, and the other half that's yelling, and some that are crying in the back, and there just was so much fighting within the school bus because I knew in my heart and I wasn't listening to what was going on and what was wrong. But yet I had given power to this false god and this my husband and different people and allowed them to drive the bus. So it just erupted. And that causes physical and mental health challenges. If we ignore the parts on the school bus, or if we allow unhealthy parts on the school bus, we're going to have physical and mental challenges. And that's why I like this analogy, because it helps us understand that a little bit more. So that was what was going on when I was 28 years old and having a cognitive dissonance and a big, huge fight on the school bus. And the school bus just broke down. So that was what was going on. So the key parts of this is to just take care of all the kids on the school bus and stay in the driver's seat. And that is super important. So first of all, there's 3 parts. Embrace all the parts of you, all the ones on the school bus, all those awkward ages, all those ages where you did things that you wouldn't do now, but you cannot shame the people on the school bus. That does not help. We forgive, we accept what is, and we listen, because those ones that have gone through the hardest time, actually, if we listen to them, have the most wisdom for us. And stuffing a sock in their mouths is not helping. Or putting them in the very back of the school bus and making a compartment just for them does not help. All the kids on the school bus need to be allowed to talk and share and, work together. So embrace all of them. Don't ignore them. And walk in alignment with who you are and what brings you joy. And that alignment, the school bus is just chugging along and they're having their conversations and stuff like that, and they're all working together. So embrace them all, number 1. Number 2 is know who else you've let on that school bus. Is it a judgmental parent that's talking and telling you you're not enough and you'll never be enough and da-da-da-da? So if that is somebody on your school bus, kick them off. Open that school bus door and say, no, you are not allowed on this school bus. Is it a bully? Is it somebody that just wants to bully you? Or is it someone, like I said, the false god that's like shaming you or something like that to keep you in line? I would kick all those things off the school bus and just be like, no, that is not okay. This is my school bus and it is going to be a healthy school bus. Kick them off. Number 3, add important people to the school bus and do that intentionally. For example, I always think I have like Jesus in the school bus right next to me, and he gives me encouragement, and he gives me direction, and we're a team, and that's super important to me. But having that encouraging person on the school bus is vital. So having that persona there and is just so important. Another person or persona I have on the school bus is future me in 10 years. And that is where I get a lot of wisdom, because sometimes, like yesterday, I ran into a situation and I had lots of feelings. I had lots of kids on the school bus giving me all their thoughts and feelings, and they were all telling me. And I, wanted to show up as adult me and future adult me. Like, I wanted to be proud of how I was showing up, and I had to really listen to how would future adult me handle this very challenging situation. And that was, for me, it reminded me that future adult me is very grounded, very, very grounded and very loving and calm. And you don't always have to be calm, but that person, that future persona, gives me a lot of wisdom. So I make sure that 10-year future me is on the school bus helping me out. And then that also helps me not just live in the moment. And living in the moment is great. And I need to live so that my future me is proud of me and not like, oh yeah, you totally destroyed your body or did something and that's costing me and I'm not very happy about it. So I keep that in mind that I'm, enjoying today, but I'm being mindful of my 10-year-old future me and letting that, be a part of the wisdom in my ear. So first of all, embrace all of the ones, know who's on the bus, and if they're not helpful and not good for you, kick them off, and then add important ones. Number 3, add important ones to the bus, your important wisdom people. And so basically when you ignore your feelings and when you resist all of that, you're basically self-abandoning and you're putting duct tape over the mouths or a sock in their mouths of the kids on the school bus. And that, or, I say kids, but yes, a lot of those are adults. That doesn't go well. That makes them angry. They will cry. They will throw fits. Is not good. So that is the importance of making sure you are listening and in touch with all of those parts of you on the school bus. So if you ignore the school bus too long or you add a bunch of toxic people, there are huge consequences. Don't ignore them. There will be symptoms in your body, mentally. It does not go well. Kicks them off the school bus because they will stir up trouble and they will terrorize the rest. So start to understand your school bus, the parts of you. Start to understand it in a loving, non-gentle way. Is there one that needs attention? Then just listen. Ask it what it needs. Ask it, listen to how it's feeling and what's going on. Understand it. It totally helps. So that's about the school bus. Make it a great school bus. Be in the driver's seat. Don't let the parts of you jump. There's often the parts of you are like, scoot over. I want to drive the bus. Whether it's the 2-year-old, the 5-year-old, or anyone else. But staying in the driver's seat of the school bus is super important. And listening to the whole school bus and managing that is super important. So I hope that was kind of fun for you and a good way for you to help understand your brain as well. Make it a great day. I believe in you. Stay tuned for our next episode.